Introduction to Death. Death is one of the most profound and universal experiences shared by all of humanity, yet it remains one of the most mysterious and complex topics. Our understanding of death has evolved through history, influenced by science, religion, philosophy, and cultural beliefs. This introduction delves into foundational ideas about death, including how it's defined, perceived across different cultures, and accepted as an inevitable part of life. Defining death. Defining death is not as straightforward as it may seem. It involves both biological and philosophical considerations, as well as legal and ethical implications. Traditionally, death was understood as the cessation of all vital functions, heartbeat, respiration, and brain activity. However, medical advancements have complicated this definition, especially with technologies like life support and resuscitation. Clinical death vs. biological death. Clinical death occurs when the heart and lungs stop functioning. Biological death, on the other hand, happens when irreversible damage is done to the brain, and the body can no longer sustain life. Brain death. With the advent of advanced life support systems, brain death has become a crucial criterion for determining death. Brain death is the irreversible loss of all brain activity, including the brain stem. This definition is widely accepted in medical communities, but it still raises ethical questions regarding organ donation and end-of-life decisions. Philosophical definitions. Philosophers have long debated the meaning of death beyond biological cessation. Some consider it not only an end to physical functions, but also a dissolution of consciousness or personal identity. In essence, the definition of death encompasses a range of biological, philosophical, and even spiritual aspects, reflecting the depth of human attempts to grasp this mysterious transition. Death across cultures. Cultural interpretations of death vary significantly, influenced by religious beliefs, customs, and traditions. These cultural attitudes shape how societies view the dying process, the afterlife, and rituals for honoring the dead. Western cultures. In many Western cultures, death is often approached with a mix of fear and respect. Traditionally, death was viewed as an ending, with Christian beliefs introducing the concept of an afterlife. Funerals, wakes, and memorial services are commonly held to honor the deceased. Eastern cultures. Many Eastern cultures, including those influenced by Hinduism, Buddhism, and Taoism, see death as part of a cyclical process of life, death, and rebirth. For example, reincarnation is a central belief in Hinduism and Buddhism, where death is considered a transitional state rather than an end. Indigenous and tribal perspectives. Indigenous communities often view death as a return to nature or integration with the spiritual world. Ancestors are revered, and there is a strong belief in the continuity of relationships between the living and the dead. African cultures. In many African cultures, death is seen as a gateway to becoming an ancestor, an honored role where the deceased continues to impact the living community. Rituals may involve music, dancing, and animal sacrifices to ensure a peaceful transition. These diverse cultural perspectives reflect humanity's attempt to make sense of death and its implications. By framing death within a larger spiritual or cosmic order, many cultures aim to find peace and continuity in the face of mortality. The universality and inevitability of death. Death is the one certainty that every living being faces, transcending all differences in age, race, wealth, and status. This inevitability has led people throughout history to search for meaning in death and to explore its significance. Biological inevitability. From a biological standpoint, death is the culmination of natural processes such as aging, disease, and the deterioration of bodily systems. All organisms are subject to this cycle of birth, growth, decay, and death, as it is essential to the functioning of ecosystems and the progression of evolution. Psychological and existential realities. The awareness of death deeply impacts human psychology. Psychologists argue that the fear of death influences behaviors and priorities, a concept known as mortality salience. According to existentialist thinkers, acknowledging death is essential for living a meaningful life, as it forces us to confront our finite existence and make choices that align with our true values. Philosophical reflections. Many philosophers have argued that death gives life meaning by imposing limits. Without death, the concept of a life journey would not exist, as there would be no beginning, middle, or end to give it structure. Existentialists like Martin Heidegger and Jean-Paul Sartre emphasize that awareness of death defines our human condition, shaping how we perceive freedom, purpose, and responsibility. Death's universality is paradoxically one of its most isolating aspects. While everyone must face it, the experience is ultimately personal and subjective, often leaving us to seek answers within our beliefs, values, and the wisdom of cultural traditions.